All right, guys. So we are going to just continue on this delicious, juicy conversation and series of age gap dating. And since my last video that I posted on what to consider before dating in age gapped relationships, I was just kind of giving you guys some pointers on things that you need to be asking and considering if you are someone who tends to be in age gap relationships and that's your style, that's what you prefer, whatever. Cool. Well, I gave you a list of the things that you should consider before doing that. And just some of the conversations that you should be having. So, continuing on in that conversation here today, I want to discuss some of the common misconceptions about age gap relationships and some of the common misconceptions that are thrown out there, the narratives and the rhetorics that you hear from all around, and the media influence and things like that. So let's go ahead and dive in on some of these misconceptions. Okay, so cutting right to it, I think one of the first common misconceptions that you tend to hear a lot around age gap relationships are people who say, well, you won't have anything to talk about with someone that's a couple generations ahead of you, or you won't be able to have ongoing conversations and like-minded interests and things that you share with each other, and the conversation eventually will die out. That's been a very common rhetoric that I've heard thrown around. And I think I've always questioned this every time I've heard this. And first, I will say is that is just such a dumb thing to say. I think it's such a dumb, limited belief mentality around age gap. I think it's just something completely made up. And us here in the Western world, we care about the dumbest qualities and superficial things when we partner up with someone. Like, we're worrying about the dumbest things. We're more concerned over the types of music that we're listening to with our partner, rather than if he is a protector and a provider and he has the stability and resources to provide you with in growing your family. Like, that's the things that we should be first and foremost concerned about. And so the conversations of, your music taste will be so different. And eventually the conversation will die out because you won't have much to discuss over. So I've always thought that concept was very, very dumb. But I was kind of exploring it and thinking to myself, okay, so why are people believing that they won't have things to talk about with someone that is maybe a few generations ahead of them? And remember that you will always attract and date at your same psychological level, at your same energetic state of consciousness. That is the level in which you can attract someone. Okay, so if you have no common interests or common ground or common values with someone, then the chances are is that you're not even going to be interested in them in the first place. You literally, the world, the universe will not allow you to come together with this person, to cross paths in a deeper, more personal sense with this person if you have no common ground to stand on. Okay, so that's first and foremost as to why I believe that is so stupid, because if you're dating and attracting someone, there's something about them that is familiar to you, okay? Secondly, just because somebody grows older in age, and they've lived a couple more years than you, that does not equate to wisdom. It does not equate to the ability to take those experiences, take those life lessons, and kind of convert them into something greater, something more geared towards purpose, and create a wisdom out of that you maybe think that a younger person doesn't have the ability to do, okay? So age does not equate to wisdom. It can, right? Absolutely, it can. But it's not always it's not always a sure thing. I know people who are 60, 70, 80 years old and still don't have that much wisdom because they haven't because they've decided that they wanted to live a life without wisdom, and that's just the fact of the matter. Most people do stay stuck in their child consciousness for the entirety of their lives, okay? Most people much prefer and would much rather stay comfortable living in their child state of mind, and still replaying their childhood and still acting out in the same behaviors that they learned and adapted to in their childhood. Are you following me here? And it also again definitely depends upon you, right? From what I always hear about myself is that I am an old soul and I have a lot of wisdom for someone my age. Which, I could, as much of a deep thinker as I am, I could choose to take that in offense. But I understand, like, what people mean when they say that. Oh, for someone your age, you're so wise. How do you have so much wisdom at your young age? I hear that all the time. And it's always such a great compliment, but I understand the concept of, whoa, you're so young, you shouldn't have all this wisdom. Because just I guess, instinctual thing to do is to assume that if you're young, you don't know anything. If you're young, you couldn't have possibly experienced enough life to learn to take wisdom from those things. Okay, so now, anyways, I've done lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so it depends upon you, right? And as someone who is definitely more traditionally minded, has a lot of more traditional values, definitely more of that old-fashioned way of thinking, and not only thinking but acting out, behaving, in a way that is just much more traditional and even classy, okay, classy mannered, not really all with the modern ways. In some ways, yes, of course, but not all around in the modern way of doing things. So as someone like myself who does still very much hold true to old-fashioned values, some of the, actually pretty much all of the best conversation that I have is with people who are much older than me, who were raised in a generation that I'm speaking of, and still keep those values as a foundation for their lives. You know what I mean? So the conversations with the people who think like me and have those same traditional old-fashioned values, and of what, let's just start with what relationships mean, and the whole concept of marriage, and just holding true to a generation of that actually adhered to morals, right? Some had some kind of moral foundation guiding their lives. Yes, I have the most amazing, juicy, delicious, interesting conversations with those same like-minded individuals. And there's just something so delicious about it. I literally talk to people who get where I'm coming from and understand my expanded mentality about all these different things, and the conversation is literally never boring. It never dies out, it never grows old, and we never run out of things to talk about. And we just kind of like to play this kind of devil's advocate where we just kind of bounce ideas and bounce questions off of each other, expanding each other's way of thinking around certain things, if that makes sense. So while I do definitely understand that there are logistics, practical logistics when it comes to age gap dating and relationships, age is really just a small factor in it, and a small little portion of it in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to having intellectual conversations, just dependent upon, that is based dependent upon your age. That's absolutely not what I have ever experienced to be true. I know so many guys that, they actually love me for my mind and what I am capable of spitting out, what I am capable of, what conversations I'm capable of exploring. The surface tends to attract them, but the mind really seems to keep them intrigued. So, and even the concept of the, oh, your music taste will be so vastly different. Well, that's probably true, okay? Because they grew up, and per se, an older man would have grown up in a generation where the music that was popular and trendy at that time is very, very different, of course, than the music that is popular and trending right now, right? And of course, it was so much better morally back then than it is now. But who cares about that? At the end of the day, does that really matter? Is that really a determining factor of whether or not you could see a man as a provider and protector for yourself and your children? If I'm speaking to you as a woman who is age gap dating and on her way to growing her family and just securing a man that can protect and provide, is his music taste some kind of determining factor for you, some kind of deal breaker for you in deciding whether he'd be a good fit to provide and protect for you in the long term? Is it a determining factor if he's a committable man? Well, absolutely not, okay? I mean, I would almost guarantee that that's probably not something that you are very concerned about when you are vetting a man for marriage, okay? Moving on to another misconception. And another common misconception and narrative thrown around about age gap relationships is that she has daddy issues. Oh, she's with an older man. She's with a man that's her father's age or older. She definitely has daddy issues. Oh, yes. Western pharmaceutical brainwashing at its finest. And it works. It works. She definitely has daddy issues if she prefers an older man. Now, I have many videos on here explaining the amazing, wonderful, beautiful, delicious reasons as to why, it is so common to see an older man with a younger woman, and why the attraction always seems to be the man is older, the woman is younger. I have many videos diving into that topic, and all of the, basing it back all on biological reasons, hormonal reasons, evolutionary history reasons, psychological reasons. So I'm not going to get too much into that part. But as far as the daddy issues concept, let me see where I can start with this. I guess let me first start by saying that yes, there can be exceptions and situations where the particularly controversial age gap relationships that tend to cause the most controversy in the eyes of the media narratives is say a younger girl in her 20s going for the man that is in his 40s and 50s. Those tend to be the more controversial ones that people kind of really tend to hang on to and stir up controversy over. So yes, there can be, of course, exceptions where the younger girl is kind of looking for that father figure in an older man, and she kind of starts to take on more of that savior complex. So since we tend to choose partners that most closely resemble the qualities of our parents and tend to pick out, subconsciously attract qualities of our romantic partners, qualities of our parents in our romantic partners, excuse me, yes, there can be these sort of girls that have a very poor, hot and cold relationship with their father, that kind of take this savior complex and want to trying to manipulate or change the that person that they have chosen to partner up with, and change those qualities about him because it gives her more validation in the child part of her. I hope that's making sense. So we will tend to want to change and manipulate and save the parts of our father that we couldn't do when we were children. Okay, so yes, that can be in a situation. Okay, but I would also argue on the flip side that women who have great relationships with their fathers and are in a healed position and have a very healthy, healed perspective of their personal relationship with their father, whether the father is in their life or not in their life, but just overall have a healed perspective of it because she has found Christ and decided to completely devout herself to following him, and let him take all of her worries and pains away, in however her childhood went up for her. Where was I? Dang it, I always do this. So I would argue that even the women that do have a better, more well-rounded, healthy perspective of their father would go on later in life to attract these same kind of attributes and qualities that her father has. So just the whole concept of daddy issues, I think most people just play into it, not really understanding what it means and like what exactly, like where all exactly that stems from. So the concept of it is just stupid overall, but there is truth to it, okay? A point overall being is that just because you date and attract older does not mean that you have daddy issues. And that is simply a Western concept, the brainwashing of the West to get you to buy into psychologists and pharmaceutical pills, okay? So that they can throw you a pill. Oh, you have daddy issues? Here's a pill. Oh, you have schizophrenia, or oh, you have depression from your daddy issues? Here's a pill, okay? That's all it is kind of formed around, is selling you pharmaceutical pills. So they will brainwash you, leading you to believe that you have all of these sorts of mental illnesses and crazy things happening in your brain so that they can write you up a script and sell you a pill, okay? I'm gonna move on to the next one here, but let me just share with you personally a little bit. I My parents ended up divorcing when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And from that point, I had a very, very rocky, hot and cold relationship with my father. My father was not really much around after my parents separated. He didn't really push for me. He didn't pursue me. He didn't care much about building a relationship with me. And so as I got older and grew up more, I definitely resented him. I actually grew to hate him in a lot of ways. I don't want to cry. I grew to hate him in a lot of ways, and definitely played that out in my scenarios in life, and just wanted to basically rebel against him in a lot of ways, and resented him in so many other ways, and just everything that happened, within the divorce of mom and dad. And then, of course, as I got older and wiser and decided to just have wisdom in the situations, and apply that to my life, I of course did a whole 360, and now I have a great relationship with my dad. I mean, I'm actually obsessed with my dad now. I'm obsessed with being around him and his now wife. I'm obsessed with like him staying very, very relevant and close to me in his life, and I always make effort now to remind him that I want to be around and I want to be a part of his life. And it was kind of work to get there. Because for a long time it just kind of got comfortable that he settled with the fact that I just wasn't going to be much in his life as his daughter. Unfortunately, that really truly was the mentality of him, the brokenness of him. But I approach it now with such grace and wisdom and understanding and compassion, okay? So this is not a journal about my situation, but it does help to give you backstory and relevance to the whole daddy issues concept. At one point, I resented my father, didn't want anything to do with him, literally kind of almost hated him. And wanted to rebel, and now I'm obsessed with him. We have a great relationship, and I talk to him all the time, see them all the time, always want to be around him, okay? So, moving on. Another misconception about age gap relationships, and that is everyone's favorite, which is she's with him for money, and he's with her because she's young and beautiful. Yeah, I know. That's the one, that's the most common one that you hear thrown around, right? And guess what? I'm here to tell you that is actually true. Yeah, it's true. There's so much truth to why younger women are attracted to older men and why cultures outside of Western world actually still practice older men, younger women, and why they tend to go more, why younger women are so much more attracted to men that are older than them. Now, again, like I've said, I have plenty of videos exploring that topic and all of the amazing, delicious reasons and backing it with scientific and evolutionary facts. But I'm not going to explore that too much right now. But yes, that is always a misconception that you hear that, because people here in the Western world, we are very programmed to only look at the superficial. So the only thing that people can reason with and have the ability to expand their minds to is the superficial concept of she's only with him for money and he's only with her because she's young and beautiful and an attractive piece of arm candy. Okay? Wait, let me stop laughing, okay? Like, basically, they think that if you are choosing based upon those factors, then you absolutely cannot have anything else. That absolutely means the absence of any other quality and attribute, okay? So if she is with him because he has financial security, he is stable, he's a stable provider and protector, he has acquired assets and built a home for himself to be able to provide for his future wife and family. If he has all of those things and she's choosing him because of all of these qualities, which absolutely you should be, okay, if you are a smart and wise woman looking for a long-term marriage with a man who can protect and provide for yourself and your future family. Let me not go off too much on a tangent here. If you choose based on all of those things, and you must absolutely be completely incapable of loving someone, like actually loving them for them, right? And on the contrary, as for men, they believe that if he is initially attracted to a woman, drawn to her because she's hot, sexy, young, and beautiful, and she's very fertile for hormonal and biological reasons, he feels very attracted to her for reproductive success, then that must mean that he is completely incapable of also seeing the heart and soul behind her beauty and attractiveness. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's really the level of expansion that most people are capable of thinking. Okay, that's about the edge of where they stop their mentality around this thing. So, women, yes, date from a pool of men who can provide and protect and have enough assets to be a stable, financially secure provider and protector. And men, definitely choose from a pool of women that have a healthy figure, are attractive and young and beautiful and glowing in their fertility and ability to be reproductively successful, and then grow from that as a foundation alone. So date for those reasons, attract people for those reasons, and then you can marry for love. Got it? Moving on. Okay, another misconception about age gap dating and relationships, specifically speaking of an older man with a younger woman, and that is that they assume that all men are these ego-driven, misogynistic big boys who believe that they can just capture the attention of any woman and lure all the women in by their financial security, and that they have no insecurities over it, and that their money just drives them. Okay, when the reality actually is of the situation that there are plenty of men who are older, and that where they actually feel a bit out of her league. They feel like a woman who is significantly younger than them are too good, too beautiful, too attractive to be in any shape or form in their league. And so they can tend to feel a little bit insecure in her presence and in the pursuit towards her, because they just maybe feel like they're just not good enough for her because they are so much significantly older. And I can give a lot of grace to the mentality of that, because yes, we do live in a very superficial society here in the West where most women are very, very masculinized, and they are pursuing men just simply because of the way that men look, rather than for their ability to protect and provide, be good providers, be good fathers, and actually have something tangible to provide them with, right? Most women are definitely pursuing men just simply because they want a man that has a six-pack, 6 figures, 6 feet tall, and looks hot and sexy, and the traditional Hollywood actor type. But the reality of the situation is that there are plenty of good, high-value men that feel inadequate to pursue romantically a younger woman because they just simply feel insecure about it, and they feel like she is way out of their league, that she is abundant in her options of men, that she wouldn't want somebody who's much older and a bit more aged and wrinkly than she is, just because her options out there are limitless because she's just so young and attractive and beautiful. Yeah, they definitely can get insecure in that area and can sometimes prevent themselves from romantically pursuing a woman because of the great age difference, and because they feel inadequate compared to her, right? I used to date a guy who definitely felt very insecure around me, and the mentality of around it for him was that I'm just too young and beautiful, and why would I want to be with someone that's as significantly older as he is to me, because I, have an abundance of options out there. And I've actually heard this like more times than just once. But this guy that I dated, they definitely do feel that way. And it's just not a reality to assume that all men are just ego-driven and believe that they can just capture any woman that they want to just because they simply have a lot of money, okay? And he actually did have a lot of money and plenty enough money to support himself and whoever he wanted to be with, but still had that deep-rooted insecurity of pursuing a woman that he felt was to be out of his league. What's funny about it is that when it came down to the nitty-gritty deep stuff around commitment, the idea of, being with a younger woman who's maybe out of his league, or what he believes to be out of his league, is fun and exciting and adrenaline-inducing. But getting down to the nitty-gritty deep commitment work of it seemed to be too heavy and too deep for him. And that's just the cold hard truth, right? It was, the idea of it was very fun and exciting for him. He didn't think that I was too young to lay down in his bed with him. But definitely thought I was too young when it came to, building a life together, getting serious, getting into, a marriage and thinking long-term with one another. He thought that it was fun and exciting to the idea of just playing and having casual fun together, right? But the idea of commitment and a long-term marriage life together was something that he just couldn't see himself doing because of the great age difference. So that is definitely a true reality of the situation. Sometimes these guys, they do have that mentality around it. It's young and it might be fun. The idea of it sounds exciting with a younger, hot, fertile, fresh woman, but the long-term situation of it, there's a lot of fears that come with that. And is it really sustainable in the long term? But this is why I preach so much about, standing your ground and sticking to who you are and standing in your own values so strongly that you almost force people, aka you ladies, force men to come to terms within themselves of where they want to take you, okay? Because when you set the foundation so firmly and you decide that you won't settle for anything less than what you desire and what you expect out of a man, then you are forcing them to get more serious with themselves and decide whether or not to take things further along with you, or to just quit it and end it right there. Because they then realize that they're not just going to use you for a fling fun time, but rather have to actually think deeply on where they see themselves in the future with you. Okay, you hear that, ladies? And older men? God, I just love them. What am I supposed to do with a 20-year-old boy? Raise him? Not on my watch. Okay, and the last age gap misconception that I'm going to be mentioning today is that older men don't always necessarily seek out younger women. Yeah, they don't necessarily just have an eye for a woman who is significantly younger than them, okay? It just kind of sometimes instinctually happens that way. See, unlike myself, who only seeks out older men, doesn't doesn't mean that older men are always necessarily only seeking out the youngest of the young, okay? Sometimes it just plays out that way. And sometimes they just find themselves attracted to a woman not based on her age at all, but based on who she is, her mind, her values for herself, how she thinks, how she behaves, how she carries herself, the essence of her femininity overall, her motherly instincts. Yes, sometimes it just plays out that way, that's who they tend to be drawn to for very instinctual and evolutionary reasons. So while I fully admit to, I will only seek out older men, that is not always the case for these older men, because they are actually totally willing to date women that are more closer to their age, or even maybe younger than them by a few years, or maybe even sometimes older than them. They are willing to date in a range of age, whether she is significantly younger or she is his same age. So don't always just necessarily assume that he is pursuing after a younger woman just simply because she is young. But even if he did want to only pursue younger women because they are young and fun and fertile and beautiful, that is okay too, because it really does not matter, and it is just a very small factor in choosing your life partner. Okay. So if you want to hear more about this topic, just go back into my feed and find all the age gap relationship videos that I have on here, exploring the topic from different perspectives and angles for you. I think it's such a beautiful, again, delicious topic to discuss here on this channel, and it seems to be something that people are really interested in, because all the videos that I've seen and all the podcasts, conversations that I've seen floating on the internet of other podcasters talking about this kind of thing, they always seem to get a lot of heat and controversy and a lot of listening ears. And so, P.S., if any of you that are watching this, or you have your own podcast and you do podcast conversations, I would absolutely love to have a podcast conversation or a panel on this topic, exactly, because I just absolutely love it. I think it's so beautiful and fascinating, and just something that people really need to expand their mentalities around. So, podcasters, you can find me here on YouTube or in my TikTok or Instagram, okay? I'm going to shut up now. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a comment, subscribe if you're not already, and send me an email if you have any inquiries or questions about your specific dating and relationship experiences. Okay, until the next video, love you guys.